welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where this week we are super excited to have head football coach of Trinity Christian, Donnie Yantis, on the show. Coach Yantis has been recognized for tremendous accomplishments throughout his coaching career in high school and college. He has a number of different stops, including Arizona State University. As everybody that watches the show regularly knows, I'm a big Sun Devil, so we're really excited to learn from him and talk to him. He was also, I don't want to butcher the verbiage, but I know the Sun Angel Foundation of the National Football Foundation was recognized as a distinguished Arizonan for his coaching career and has done a lot of different things. Was the head coach of Paradise Valley for a number of years as well. So really tremendously varied experience, has been in multiple states now, started a program at Arizona Christian University, which we'll talk a little bit about that, and a lot of different subjects here. So hopefully everybody's season's going well. Full disclosure, we're taping this in late July. This one is going to get released in the middle of October, so hopefully everybody's seasons are going well. Just want a little programming note for you. When your season ends, we'll be starting our episodes on getting the job. So we got a number of different interviews we set up with athletic directors that I think is really going to be helpful for those coaches that are out there trying to make the move to be a head coach. I know I went to many an interview in my pursuit of my first head coaching job, and I think we got some valuable resources for you. And again, number one goal of our show, we're not making any money for this. The number one goal of our show is to provide free resources for coaches out there. The coaching profession is such a great profession to be able to be involved in, and I feel very blessed to be in the midst of my 26th season coaching high school football. So anything that we can put out there that will help guys, we consider that a win. So, but before we get into the topic at hand, just a quick reminder that the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. Sound too good to be true? I can tell you our programs here at Prescott High School have raised well over $200,000 using School Funder, and we have kept every single penny. So I would encourage you to contact them. They do an amazing job. You would never, ever even consider, it's laughable that you would consider giving away 20% of the wins your team earns. So don't give away 20% of the proceeds that they bring in fundraising. So contact School Funder at schoolfundr.org and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you, as it will help the show. And while you're helping the show, like I said, we're just trying to reach more coaches. So please, if you have not already, like and subscribe to the show. We're slowly growing that audience, and we're going to continue. You can also find us on Twitter at BG Gridiron Show. So get on there and help us grow the coaching profession. And I know, like I said, I feel very blessed to have been able to do this for as long as I have, and I'm certainly excited to talk to you, Coach. And one of the things that's my favorite part of the show, and a lot of the guys, if you're watching and you want to get right to the nuts and bolts of stuff, we will have that for you, so you can fast forward on YouTube. But one of my favorite parts of the show is hearing everybody's football story. So I know your football story has taken you to a number of states, number of stops, and you've seen a ton of stuff. So tell me a little bit about your football story, Coach, if you don't mind.
Well, it all started in Phoenix, Arizona. I was blessed to go to Paradise Valley High School for 4 years and had two football coaches, Pat Lavin, longtime Hall of Fame coach, and then Bob Lambie was my coach here. And they both were there for a long time. And then after there, I went to Glendale Community College, played for Joe Kirstein, a Hall of Fame junior college coach who I learned a lot of football from as well. Then went on to Southern Utah and then got back from college and got the itch to coach. And so went back to my alma mater. I was just telling someone today, my first job is at Mirage Elementary as an elementary school teacher in the Deer Valley District, making $12,000 at a .5 contract in 1995, and then being the freshman volunteer or defensive back coach at PV. And you fast forward that, and the next year I was with Joe Kirsten at Glendale Community College and was his defensive back coach, and then he went off to Northern Arizona to join Steve Axman, and I went back to PV and was a varsity assistant for 2 years, and then started. I went to Glendale High School, as the head football coach in 1999. That was my first head job, my first coordinator job, and actually was the defensive coordinator that year. And Earl McQuiston was my OC, and Earl McQuiston was a longtime great football coach at Apollo High School and also at Glendale Community College. He was my offensive coordinator. So I learned a lot. I've been blessed to have a lot of people that I've worked with, worked under, coached with, played for, that taught me. And then at 1 year at Glendale, my high school coach at Paradise Valley retired from coaching football and called me and says, "You want my job?" And long story short, I was there 14 years. Had a great run there. Loved all those kids. I still tight with a lot of those kids and staff, and was a blessing. And then our daughter graduated from PV in 2013, and what opens up Arizona Christian University, and I threw my hat in the ring. And by the grace of God, I was offered the position and had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I was still young. I was like 43 years old, and still had a lot of energy, obviously. And we did some good things there. Ran that program for 2 years. We won a conference championship, and then Todd Graham called me at Arizona State and said, "Hey, do you want to come to ASU and work for us?" And that obviously had been a dream. I mean, to be a Sun Devil in the state of Arizona. I'm an Arizona guy, to go to ASU and have that experience with such great coaches, and it was humbling. I learned a ton over those 4 years. Todd got let go after 2 years. Herm kept me on, and learned a ton from some great offensive coordinators, and obviously Todd Graham taught me it. I learned a lot from Todd. I'm still friends with him. And then we got let go after our second year. A lot of our offensive staff got let go, and had some opportunities. We could have went with Todd to Hawaii, but we had prayed on it. My wife and I did, and the coaching profession is a lot of movement. So we had knew that we were probably getting let go in January that year beforehand. So we had sold our house in Desert Ridge and rented a house out in Scottsdale, closer to the school, closer to ASU, and kind of prepared for it. And so when we have a cabin up north in Munns Park, so when we got let go in December, we went up to our cabin for a couple months and talked to a lot of people, and I had 3 opportunities really in 2 days. And in just Valor Christian in Colorado was it just kept pulling on us, and we prayed on it, and it just that name just kept popping up in our head. And I woke up one morning and I said, "We're going to Colorado." And so we went there, had a great gosh, I had great teams there, great coaches, great teams. I think we were 22-2 or 20-2, went to 2 state title games, lost both of them, like the Marv Levy of high school football. We lost 2 state title games there, and then yeah, it's a blessing to go to it. I'm not complaining, but so we went 2 in a row there, and then Prestonwood Christian's where I'm at now here in Plano, Texas, and Todd Graham was actually a member of the church here. So this is kind of it's one of the largest churches in Texas, Prestonwood Baptist Church, and our campus is right on that. So we're really blessed to have the support of the church. But Todd Graham was a member of Prestonwood Baptist, and he always talked about Prestonwood. And Pastor Graham, who's our pastor here for the last 35 years, he'd come to some of our ASU games. So I had met him, and they were searching for a coach after would have been after the 21 season. And Coach Graham, I was sitting on my couch in Castle Rock, Colorado, with my wife on a Sunday, and Coach Graham texted me and he goes, "Hey, do you have any interest in Prestonwood?" And I said, "Maybe." And it was one of those places that when I was at ASU, I recruited the DFW area, the Metroplex. So I knew Prestonwood. I'd recruited some guys here, signed a tight end not far from here at Arizona State. So they brought us down, and our daughter and our now our grandkids, she's married, and our grandkids live in Houston. It was just kind of one of those things that's when you talk about my pillars, it's faith, family, education, football. My personal life, it's faith, family, football. And so when we prayed on those pillars and we talked about what was the best thing for us, I had a really good position in Colorado at Valor, but we just felt like our calling was here. And we're in our 4th season. The first year we went to the state championship game here in Texas, and we lost in that game. So I'd lost 3 in a row, as a coach. But from a humbling perspective, it's been awesome. I've had some great people, and as you know, Coach, I've been doing this as number 31 for me, 31st year, and I think 24 as a head coach. You're continuously learning, even to the point where I thought at Paradise Valley I knew a lot of stuff at the end, and almost I was getting bored with where I was at there, and then going to ACU, then ASU, and just learning under a lot of people, and where I feel like almost I've doubled my knowledge over the past 7 or 8 years, where I didn't even know that was possible. And you've heard, I've heard coaches like Coach Putman, who was at Moon Valley years ago, Pat Farrell, Tim Sanford, all those guys say, like, you just continuously learn. And so I think that's where I've really been blessed to be able to continuously learn and not have a know-it-all ego where, every single year I feel like that I'm learning how to be a better coach, how to manipulate a defense, how to motivate a kid, how to impact a kid, how to reach a kid, all those things, and obviously from your staff, being able to motivate those guys. So that's kind of my football thing. I decided to be a coach, just because I wanted to give back to those who gave back to me. I really didn't have a dad. I had a single mom who raised me through high school, and my high school coach, Bob Lambie, was like a father to me. And then Joe Kirstein continued that path on. And so I just saw the impact that those guys not only had on me, but the guys I played with. And I kind of wanted that. And I thought, I could do that for kids like me. And so when I look back at it, that's kind of why I coach. It's a little bit different now that I became a Christian, like, 19 years ago, actually, where, I want to impact these young men. And to be honest with you, I went to CCV, Christ Church of the Valley in Phoenix, and Pastor Don Wilson was our pastor. That's where I got baptized in 2010. But, he always said, I want to go to heaven and take as many people with me as I can. And that's kind of my goal. Like, like wins and losses come and go. That's not my identity. I know where my identity's at. And as a 54-year-old coach, I think I've grown in the last 20 years where it's not all about the wins and the losses. It's about the kids you impact. And when you look back at it, coach, and you've done it for a long time, you got kids coming back that you coached 20 years ago, and you see them be successful men, husbands, and fathers. That's the real reward and the real wins.
Those wedding invitations,
yep.
Into the Texas, this helped me coach. Our defense coordinator now, and I hope eventually takes over for me as the head coach, is a guy that played middle linebacker for us. So absolutely, those are 100% the wins there, Coach. And
yeah.
and I'm very I'm envious of you in a good way that you get to openly talk about your faith, being at a Christian school. Sometimes you have to walk a little bit of a line being in public school there, but I really that is, I think, the whole package there. So I think that's great stuff, and I appreciate hearing that. Tell me a little bit about, because you've had to do it at multiple places and with different communities, different demographics, different school settings, all sorts of things. So talk to me a little bit about building a program. What do you think are the most important factors?
I think number one, like all the places I went to, I was strategic on who I hired. And so interviewing the right guys with the right fit, with the right intentions, who want to serve kids. I think that was one of my main things. Early in my career, it was about just getting guys to go to work and work. But as I've evolved and grown and got, with some wisdom and age, it's, and I remember when I went to Valor, I got to Valor 9 days before COVID. And that was a very interesting time. Like, we did everything. You learned how to Zoom. You learned how to do everything online. And I was stuck in a basement, at a little office I had in our basement when we first got there, and just, interviewing coaches online and then sneaking them over to the house because, Colorado's kind of a liberal state. So it was one of those things where I'm trying to sneak guys in the basement and not getting caught, But being intentional, I think when I went to Arizona Christian, I've always been a bridge builder, not a burner, as a coach. And I when people we played, I never talked smack about the other programs or teams or coaches. I've always, had a lot of respect for every coach that I've coached against and coached with. So when I started Arizona State, I had a really good nucleus of head coaches in different parts of the Valley, and I was strategic on who I hired. That I hired head coaches from different areas of the Valley because of budget. Being able to, those guys knew that end of town. They knew the coaches in that end of town, and I hired guys that were respected, and they could go into those high schools, and we could recruit Arizona and bring them all to ACU and win. And I think that we did that. And so when I took like guys like Danny Friedman, Joe Kirstein, Jeff Bowen. I mean, you just go on and on with the guys that we had on that staff. Grant O'Brien, who coached with me, is now coaching. He played for me and is now coaching at Northwestern. Just guys that I really valued. Willie Dudley, who was at Mount Fountain Hills. I mean, so you look at all those; these are all spread it out, across the Valley. So we just had a strategic plan, and I think hiring good people is one of the main things. And I think you got to set the foundation for your team I'm a faith, family, education, football guy. That's our pillars, and I have a motto that leads up to it that I stole from my high school football coach. And most of the stuff that we have as coaches is not, we're not so innovative. We learn from other people and we take from other people. And he's a no excuses, no alibis, no regrets. Keep your poise, be physical, finish everything. That's kind of our motto. And I'll share this with you because I have I'll share this on my screen because you'll see my. I'm gonna see if I can do this. Open settings. Do I have to? There we go. Do I have to sign in? It's telling me I have to sign in. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I apologize, Coach.
No worries.
So you told me to.
And then screen.
There we go. Can you see it now? The screen?
Yep, it's coming up.
Okay. So can you see the? Let's see here. It says allow every visit. Here we go. Can you see me now?
It still is kind of working its way here, but I know we're on our way to it sharing.
Okay. So I'll share what I'm going to share with you is like my vision or a program, and I know you can't see it right now. So hopefully it pops up here. Can you see it? Nope.
No, might have.
Screen. Riverside. Share.
Usually it's just share screen. Right now it's just rolling out the red carpet, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where that's at. I don't know where that's coming from. There's something else.
So.
So yeah, I'm at the Riverside. So anyway, I don't know if I can share with you. So I apologize if I can't get it to you. But I really want you to see the vision thing. But it's let me get out of this thing. Can you see me?
I can see you. Yep.
Okay. So it's not. I can't see you. But anyways, Coach. Holy cow! There we go. So it's about faith, family, education, football, and the foundation, and really bringing the kids in and getting them to buy into your philosophy. And it's been really easy at a faith-based institution. It was a little bit more difficult at Paradise Valley, but I used biblical principles in a sense. But, I think, Coach, and you probably heard this from your coaches and the people that you know and you coached with and coached for, is if the kids know you care, that you really care about them, they'll go through a wall for you. And I think that's the important thing, that I do love my guys. I love my guys. Sometimes I don't like them, they get on our nerves and stuff, but I love my guys, and they're always my guys. I said, until I go to heaven, you always are my guys until you get to heaven, then you'll be again back in there. But it's one of those things where I think that, and then, when you think about program stuff, I think discipline is so important. I think structure. I'm a very structured individual. We have 4 days of 9 to 3 this week of coaching school with my whole staff, 20 guys in our room. We're going over program philosophy. We're going over coach's manual. We're going over practice expectations. We're going over, all the schemes and all the things you do. And then we do our devotional together. We grow in Christ together. All those things that we do as coaches, I think sets the bar for the kids when they come. They're excited when they get here. And, in this day and age, it's if you didn't do a lot of the summer work and stuff, so the parents find a way to take them somewhere else and where someone's doing that stuff. So it's a year-round deal, especially here in Texas, where we get after it pretty much year-round. But that's kind of how. And you know what, Coach? I don't focus on scoreboard. I never do ever. I really don't. I said the scoreboard takes care of itself. Focus on the little things and focus on us. Focus on Prestonwood. And we're going to be fine. Whatever happens at that scoreboard happens. We can't control that. All we can control is our attitude and our actions and words. So that's kind of what I would say is the foundational pieces of how you build a program.
Coach, I love all that stuff. I think definitely that's some stuff for coaches to take back and be able to use in their program. I've talked about this with a lot of coaches. I worked for a lot of great guys. I could go back being an assistant, wouldn't really have an issue. The only thing that I would want control of still is the practice plan, because I was a part of some of those staffs where it said Indy was 10 minutes and then it was 25 or 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
So being in control of the practice plan is something that's really important to me. I have a little bit of that in me too, where everything's going to be done at this time exactly, and those type of things, Coach. But walk me through a little bit of your practice plan, because that's one of the things I think has changed the most just in our profession in general. I remember some practices in the late 90s that were awful long that I would not consider very good practices, that were pretty much kind of the norm at that point, I would say. But walk me through a typical practice plan, how you guys go about doing that.
I think it's so important to be structured, and I think, like you said, like we are, and I'm looking at our practice plan. I'm going to pull up our practice plan. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to go through it with you because I think it's, we have a fall camp practice plan, and then we have a in-season practice plan. I think it's important to know the difference, because fall camp, the kids aren't in school. We're able to, meet with the kids. Like, to be honest with you, the kids come in on, I got my practice schedule here. So the kids come in, we start 6 a.m. on Monday. And so they'll come in at 5 and get taped and dressed. And then we've already given them their install before they left in the summer. So our first install is already given to them. So we do a 3-hour practice. And I agree with you, man. There was time when I was at Paradise Valley and we were wing T. Like, sometimes you're 3.5-hour practices because kids played two ways and all those things. But I've really tried to, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, to narrow it down to 2.5 hours. And we still, at Prestonwood's a 6A TAP school here in Texas. It's a private school. But so we only have 600 kids in the 9 through 12 grade. Now, our football team, we got about 80 kids. And that's 9 through 12. So we don't have a freshman team here. It's more of a JV developmental team and a varsity team. So what we do is we take our JVs in our varsity, and I have 2 separate staffs in terms of an offensive staff and a defensive staff. And so our varsity staff may be on the north end of the field, and then our varsity players are on the north end of the field, our JV players are on the south end of the field, and we'll start offense with the varsity guys and the defenses with the JVs. We do our special teams, for example, if I'm doing punt, then the JVs are doing punt return, and we'll utilize each other to be able to scout against that. And then we flip it, and the coaches travel. So the coaches will travel down to the JVs, the offensive coaches, and vice versa. So, basically you get about 55 minutes to an hour on each side of the ball. So we got to be really strategic on how we utilize those minutes. So me and the defensive coordinator and the special teams coordinator, we get together and we really talk about how to maximize our time. Like, there's not a lot of wasted time. And I think as coaches, like, the one thing that I learned at Arizona State, Todd Graham is a very structured practice guy, and we don't condition in practice, coach, ever. Our conditioning is done inside of practice by taking the field, hustling to your drill, finishing on the drills, all those things. So we get our stuff inside, so we're not wasting time, 10 or 15 minutes of pulling teeth at the end of practice, getting the guys to try and condition. So what we do, coach, we do a 5-minute warm-up. We take the field. The kids get there about 10 minutes before, and in each position, coach gives their position group something to do in pre-practice. They're not just standing on the sideline throwing a ball around. So they're pretty structured on how they do pre-practice. We do a 5-minute warm-up. So this is my 3-hour routine. Then we do specials, and on that 5-minute warm, then we go right to specials. Specials is like 2 to 3 minutes, and we're working on things that you have to put in that you may never even use, but you got to put in, like victory. Like victory, you want to use those every game, hopefully every game. So that's the first one we put in. Then we put in intentional safety. We got a couple of 2-point plays. We do a clock sweep, a bleed. We do a church where you don't score, you get a first down and take a knee. Hail Mary, burst huddle where all those things in our on 2 count we call purple orange. So we do that, and then we just focus on 1 or 2 of those a day. The first week is just installing it. So we're installing it, rep it a few times, and then we move on to special teams. And like day 1 on Monday, we'll work on punt. So our kids have already worked on it this summer. We worked on it in the spring. In Texas, we had 14 full padded practices in the spring. So we got all of our installs in the spring, and then we redid it in the summer as well. So our kids pretty much know, except for all the new kids that come in, they know what we're doing. So we'll go right to punt. We do our punt drills. I'm not just line up and punt. Like, we have specific ways we line up and do our drills to cover. We do, protect and cover. We just do protect and we full go where, you get to the returner. And then we go to offensive indie. And offensive indie, for offense, we do quarterbacks and running backs. I'm a firm believer in ball security. So we're coaching ball security throughout the entire practice. Like, I just don't do ball security drills. Ball security drills are incorporated. So we do what we call tracks. And so we have 4 quarterbacks, 4 centers, 4 running backs, and we're running our inside zone or outside zone. And that's like 3 minutes long. And we're probably getting 12 reps of that. And kids are high and tight, scoring, all those things. Then we go to true indie, and that's where we're doing our everyday drills, coach. Your stance, your footwork, all the different things that you want to do in your position group. And I have our guys have a position manual where they go through all the stuff. and everything's game simulated. Like we're not doing things that we wouldn't do in a game. So some of the like stuff that quarterback coaches do on, it drives me nuts. I'm looking like, why would we ever do that? Only one of one does that, and that's Patrick Mahomes, right? So, for us, it's really doing things that's going to be applicable to our games. Then we, obviously we include water in that. So we got our individual, and then we go to group. And from an offensive standpoint, I'm a very structured. We're a run, play action, quick game, deep game, screen. That's what we are. So I'll do 5 minutes of group in quick game, then 5 minutes of deep game, 5 minutes of play action. Then we get another little break. Then we go to 7-on-7. Then we do inside run with RPO. Could be RPOs. So we could have some receivers. We could not. Just depends on the day. And then if we don't have the receivers, we're doing one-on-ones. We do water again. Then we do team screen, and that's when we go as a team where I'm in team screen. So a team screen's like 3 or 4 minutes. We focus on one screen a day and really hammer that down. And then we're in team play action, and all of our stuff is like 6 to 7 minutes. So team play action, team run play action, team tempo, and team tempo is like on air, not 11-on-11, and that's just going as fast as we can with our menu items. And then we go into a water thoughts break, and then we jump into special teams, punt return, and we switch. And so that's what we do offensively. Defensively, our defensive coordinator is an old Moon Valley quarterback, Gabe Elisario, who coached at the small school level for many years in Iowa and also Oklahoma. Known him for a long time, and so our defensive coordinator job came open, and I hired him this spring. But in his install, what he likes to do is the first 8 minutes in camp, he wants to do a install walkthrough. So they do things a little differently defensively. Offensively, we're rolling. Defensively starts a little slower and very intentional and teaching what they're going to do for the day after they've already did the install in the film room, and then they're going to go right to a pursuit drill. And so teach them, and then let's get them running. So gets them in a pursuit drill, and then we do what we call a line circuit, and that's 4 stations of tackle strip. And so different angles, different ways to strip, because we're trying to take the ball away. So we want to make sure that we emphasize that. I'm a big ball security and a big ball takeaway guy, right? So we're going to do a line circuit, and that's about 2.5 minutes times 4, so it's 10 minutes. And then they'll get into defensive individual, and they take their individual. I break mine up into sections. They do 20 minutes, and they have their position manual, and they're going through everything that they're going to do in their practice, coverage-wise, front-wise, all the different, footwork, stance, all those different things, watching the ball, all those things. And then they're going to get into defensive group, which is like a team run. So that'll be against their install, team run, and then they'll do a second team run, and that's a script. That's a mixed pass run script, and then that's it for us. I mean, that's our 3-hour practice, for fall camp. And then after that, coach, and what we do, we give them a 30-minute break. The parents are here, and I failed to mention that too, coach. When you're talking about building a program, like your parents are critical, and I think getting the parents on your side is critical, and having that preseason meeting where you give them the expectations of what a successful and what a good parent looks like, not only from their house and picking up their kid in the car, but I'm talking about in the stands. What's it look like to be a supportive parent? What does it look? What is your son? What does he want from you as a parent? He doesn't want you yelling up there, yelling and screaming at the coach or the referees or even some of his teammates. Like, he wants you to cheer for his team, because our football team, like yours is, coach. Most of those guys are team guys, and they love their team. So when you're talking negatively about the teammates, they get hurt. They hurt their kids. So anyways, talking about parents, I want to make sure I made that point. But we go in after practice, and our parents provide like a breakfast burrito for them. They get like a 30-minute break, and then we go into a special teams meeting where we've taken the film. We drone all of our practice. We go in and we watch the film, our punt return, with the special teams coordinator, and the coaches are involved in that. And then we go right into an hour of offensive film review. Individually, we have different stations we go to, so all the position guys take their guys, and they'll watch the practice from today, and then they're going to do the install for tomorrow. And so we do that, then we go right into defensive one, and then we give them a lunch break where the parents come in, they bring them lunch, and then we go into a circuit lift, and we do that every other day. So if we lift Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the first week, Tuesday, Thursday will be a devotional where we'll do a team devotional or a group devotional. We're coming in and we're giving them the word, man. We're giving them something, coach. And I'm sure you're aware of it, but FCA has a competitor's Bible. I utilize that thing on a daily basis. This is my coaching Bible here, and then I got a competitor's Bible that is for the kids, right? And so these things have great devotionals, as you're aware of, like the dates on it. This is last week, but where I sit here and I'll bring the quarterbacks in and I'll take a picture of this and crop it, and I put it up. I have a 75-inch screen right here, and I'll prop it up on the screen, and we'll sit here and go through a devotional with my quarterbacks. But we do this twice a week in camp, and then once we get to the season, we'll do one team one, and then we do one individual one. But I think those are things for them. That's kind of how we run our practice, coach. Probably not different than anybody else that's on here. I do think that we got to respect the coach's time, but as a head coach, and as you know, it's our responsibility to keep everybody structured. We have a clock, that monitors our periods. The same one they have at Arizona State. When I was there, I purchased that one. It's pretty expensive, but it's worth every penny.
I was blown away how pricey they are.
Oh yeah, it was $7,500, coach. But we raised the money just like you guys. You're talking about your fundraising efforts. We're doing the same thing here. We're doing different. It's different, but it's similar stuff. But like when you think of private schools, like you think of like, oh, they got this big budget and stuff. Like, no, coach, we don't. We have a zero operating budget, and they cover the salaries, but we have a zero operating budget. I fundraise for every single part of our budget, and also we have parent paid expenses. So for example, to play football, it'll cost the parent about $650, and that covers a lot of the transportation. It covers the jerseys over time. We charge them for that, charge them for the huddle, because we have the biggest huddle deal you can get, where they do this huddle assist and all that stuff. So we work our tails off here, but it's a blessing, coach. But I hope that can help anybody. And coach, you can always share my email with anybody. I give it, I'm an open door. There's nothing to hide with me, man. I'll share any of my practice plans. I'll share. I have a program guide that I talk with our parents on team night, where we, when the season starts, I have a parent night, and I have a slide presentation I go over. Man, I'd be happy to share anything that I have with anybody in Arizona, because those are my guys, man. I know there's a lot of guys that have been gone for like 6 years now, but there's a lot of guys there that I know and certainly respect. And any way I can help, especially all those young guys, thing I can help to give back to the state that I came from and love, I certainly would.
Well, Coach, we're very appreciative of all that. Let me ask you, because you talked about it a little bit there. Has your practice structure changed from school to school in terms of the size of the school, resources, maybe different things available? Or have you been pretty consistent in that regard? Because obviously you've been at a number of different types of schools and in terms of that. And you talked about your numbers here, and other places you've been have been bigger or smaller or what have you. Has that structure maintained?
Yeah, I think at Paradise Valley we were a 5A school when I was there, and I think there's 5A1, 5A2 is the last conferences. I don't think there was a 6A at the time, but but we were a school that had like 35 varsity kids, so our kids had to learn both ways and many times play both ways. I mean, some of the best teams I had in the 2003 team that went undefeated in the regular season, like we had 9 guys going both ways. I mean, we were wing T team, control the ball, so it wasn't a lot of tempo. So I could conserve a little bit. But yeah, those practices were long because they had to go on both sides of the ball. And I had, Mel Harms was my defensive coordinator, and you probably know Mel. And Mel's a very structured, thorough coach, and so he wanted to make sure his guys were ready. And I was an old wing T coach, and I'm the same way. So it took what it took. So we might have a 3-hour practice schedule, and it would last for 3.5 hours. And our kids just got accustomed to it. But to be honest with you, it wears on everybody, So yes and no. When I got in my last couple years at Paradise Valley, I tried to go 2 platoon as much as I could. So I shortened practice some, but guys had like our 1s were our 2s and our 2s were our 1s, So we worked on that. When I got to ASU, it was a blessing because we had an offensive team and a defensive team basically. So our practices were like 2 hours, and not sometimes an hour and 45 minutes, because you could just go offense and then special teams and you're rolling. And so that was really nice. And obviously at Arizona State, our practices were about 2 hours, and they were very structured. Like we said, when I got to Valor, 135 kids. It's a school of 1,200, so it's about double the size I'm here now. So we did have an offensive team and a defensive team, and a couple guys would train, but our practices are about 2 hours and 15 minutes total because we did cross train. But I've had guys, like I have a receiver that played for us last year that's going to Washington State as a DB, and he's a 1,500-yard receiver, and he's going as a DB because that's where he fits. Well, he got to play some DB, and we cross-trained him. So that helped that young man at the next level. So sometimes we pigeonhole guys into positions that's best for us and our program, and kids will do that because they're team guys. But I also want to make sure I give that kid every opportunity because I think we have a duty as a coach. I know some people disagree with me, but if a kid has a desire to play college football, we want to give them that opportunity if we can do that. And so any way I can do that without hurting the team, I'm going to do that. And, we had 13 seniors this past year, 11 out of 13 are playing college football. It's one of those things that we were able to help those guys without. But yeah, coach, it does change. If I was at a school, like a Hamilton, like a Chandler, that has Pinnacle High School has 130 or 40 kids on the varsity level, you're able to two platoon and you can shorten your practice a certain amount of time. No doubt you can do that.
That's been interesting in talking because we've talked to a number of different coaches, some at big schools, some at small schools. We actually had Coach Davis, who's the current guy at PV, on.
Yeah.
And that's been an interesting topic to talk about. I know little technical difficulties in sharing the screen, but if you could maybe coach me up a little bit, because I have said on the show I think I'm probably the worst RPO coach in America, and it's just my opinion. I think it really depends on the signal caller, but walk me through a common RPO you would use and maybe how you drill it.
Yeah, gosh.
Translation for me.
I was really, really blessed to be coaching with some great coaches at Arizona State. I think the first person that really, I ran a little bit RPO, PV, but when you're a head coach for so long, you kind of lose touch with some guys, right? And then so you get stuck in your own ways, and you're almost a little stubborn. And I definitely was that because you want to do what you know. And so I think that's important. But getting out of your comfort zone is important. And I went to ACU. I think a guy named Dan Friedman, who I think is coach at Deer Valley. Dan was an RPO guy, and we did some simple RPOs, inside zone with a slant or a hitch, and just simple stuff. And then I learned a lot from Mike Norvell, spending some time at Arizona State. And then during my time at Arizona State, you had Chip Lindsey, who's an air raid guy. You had Billy Napier, who's really a pro-style Alabama guy, how he runs things, but he does run some RPOs. And then you had Rob Likens, who is a definite RPO guy, and so he's an air raid / RPO guy. And I think what I did when I left there, I kind of created my own thing. I love air raid concepts. I was blessed to work with Hal Mummy and Mike Leach in a college all-star game at Arizona State Stadium in 2011, where the association said, "Hey, we're going to let you coach with these guys." And I literally learned the air raid from Hal Mummy in 9 hours on a Sunday in his room at the where that Firebird Raceway is out there, that hotel casino out there. But so I kind of married the two. A lot of air raid concepts, even in our RPO. But there's so many ways you can do it. I'm a pistol guy, because I'm a balance guy and a pistol guy. I don't want to give the defense any indicator on where we're running the ball. And so we're about 95% pistol, and it's been really good. We've been pretty balanced in time. We score 45 points a game. We have a lot of yards per game, but we're pretty balanced in how we run the ball and throw it. But one of the main RPOs I really like the tight end and a wing. I'm a 2x2 tight end and a wing. We call that dual. And we did a lot of that at Arizona State when I coached the tight ends, and I really enjoyed that because I think it stresses out defense, especially that play side safety on the backside safety on the tight end side. So we're going to run zone away from the tight end, and our tight, we call it dig, and the tight end's going to dig the backside, and depending on the front. If you get a 6-man box, it's pretty simple. But just say we have that outside receiver to the tight end side, and we have a number of different tags. We have a hitch, we have a 3-step slant, we have a 5-step glance. We have a speed out, a speed out at 5 steps that we can run the RPO off of. We have a now screen off of it. So we have a number of different things to do. But if you get a 6-man box and you get a too high safety look, for us, it's really trying to manipulate the nickel or the safety. And if that safety doesn't stay high, if they're going to go single high, we're going to play action. We're throwing over their head. That's kind of our thing. Like, we're a run play action team. But in that RPO world, it's really like with that tight end there, sometimes we'll run an insert with that inside zone, and that really puts stress on that nickel. Do I put my beak in the box to help with the run, or do I sit out here and wait? And so that's kind of our read, really, to be honest with you. And we'll run, I like glance off of it, where it's a 5-step glance by the receiver, and we're sliding right with the quarterback, riding that thing all the way down and reading the nickel. I just say if he puts his beak in the box, put it on the glance, and that glance is a little skinny. It's not super sharp. So if a quarterback does make a mistake, he doesn't have that nickel in his face. But it's a pretty easy read. I think that's one of our main things.
You said you had tight end wing. Are we talking about tight end wing and then twins?
No, I meant a tight end as a wing.
Okay, gotcha.
So 2x2 with the tight end as a wing, yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
So we do that, and then we also, depending on the box, we can run some triple stuff. So, if we have the quarterback, like right in my last Valor, I've had 5 quarterbacks since I left Arizona State, and 4 out of the 5 are Division I. One of the guys when I first got here is a triple threat kid. He's at Air Force, and he's the backup quarterback at Air Force. So when I had him and we went to the state championship game, we were more triple. So it was inside zone. We'd leave the end man on the line of scrimmage, because usually they have one more guy in the box, and we'd block the first 5 and leave number 6 for the quarterback and read that guy and being on triple. And that triple would be a bubble or an owl screen, or a slip with the tight end, or tight end just running a narrow route. So we did a number of things with that, and I think that really puts a lot of stresses on defenses when we had a quarterback like that. And then this year, I have a quarterback at 6'5", 200 pounds. He's a Division I kid, threw for 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Just very intelligent. Really, if you remember a kid I coached years ago, Ryan Finley, who played at PV,
Absolutely.
He's very much like Ryan Finley, but he's about 30 pounds heavier. And obviously, I think as we grow, Coach, you're a better coach than you were 10, 15 years ago. So,
Coach, when you're talking about that set, you're talking
Yeah.
about bubble from the twins. You're talking about
Yeah.
the tight end here as a wing slipping out into the flat. So obviously your quarterback's here, opening this way in the pistol, and the zone's coming back to the right. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah, no, 100%. So let's say we got a 3x1 with the wing tight end. So you're in 3x1 with the wing tight end, and we're gonna run inside zone with the tight end. So we have, or let me give you another one. I'll give you a better one. We're gonna run pop with the tight end. So how we do it is if you put a safety over the tight end at 8 yards, and so what our quarterback does, you're going to get a 6-man box on that every time, right? You got the tight end, he's in the box, you're going to get 6-man box. So there's 2 different options on this. This is a really good, I think you can get a lot out of this. You run pop. If there's someone over the tight end, it turns into a triple. The tight end's dead. You're not throwing to him. Okay, so he's dead because you got a guy over him, and you're not throwing pop with a guy over the tight end. So now the slot, the H, is running the bubble. So we're going to pop the tight end or someone over time. Now we're going to triple the number 6 defender, the end man on line of scrimmage, to the tight end side, the weak side, and we're going to triple that guy. We're downhill A-gap track, and we're reading that 9 technique. He comes down, tackling the running back. We're pulling it parallel to the line of scrimmage. Now we're reading the nickel. Is he going with the bubble, or is he sitting on me? If he sits on me as a quarterback, I'm spinning it to the bubble right now. If he goes to the bubble, we're 3 steps parallel, and then we're 45 degrees away from the linebacker, and then quarterback go be a running back and go do what you do, get vertical. That's one of our main fastball RPOs, and we do it like I have a green menu that I got from Hugh Freeze. He came and visited us at Arizona State when I was there, and I really liked his green menu. And the green menu for that play is like green 3 and 4. So green 3 and 4, if it's green 3, it's going to be that option to the right. Green 4 is option to the left. But it's the formation of play in the RPO all in one.
Okay.
I wish I could show you the screen.
About somebody over the tight end, because you said you get one high, you're throwing your play action. You talking about too high? There's one guy directly over the tight end.
Yeah, if you look at that 3-by-1, that backside safety can sit over the tight end, or they can set that nickel at 6 yards and they'll put that front side safety over top. Now, if they truly go too high and they're respecting the backside single receiver, then you don't have anybody over the tight end. Then we're going to lock the 9 technique with the tackle and read the mic. So we're reading the mic to the pop. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's pretty simple, and in our, obviously it takes time. Like it's hard for your JV kids to do that and your freshman kids, but your varsity kids, it's a really good concept that puts a lot of stress, especially when you're tempoing. When you get into a tempo and that, it puts stress on those dudes.
Have you found, you were talking about that being difficult for your JV and freshman guys. Have you maybe found a way to build smaller, maybe simpler type stuff into their scheme?
Yes.
So they're kind of building and they're not getting it all thrown at them when they get to the varsity?
Yes, 100%. Like that same look, 3-by-1 with the tight end wing, right, with that wing tight end. We'll run just a straight inside zone with the tight end either insert or blocking the 9 technique, and we just run hitch by the H.
Gotcha.
So that apex defender, if he's putting his beak inside the run, just spin the hitch. Yeah, just make it simple, or just throwing an L screen out there. Like a spot screen. So with your H running the sidewalk to the corner and reading the nickel. So it's either hand it off or throw it. You know what I mean? Just stuff simple for them that it can be easy for them. We take the what I call developmental JV team, and we just kind of narrow that thing down where I don't put a kid in a position that he's going to fail. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. That's a lot to throw at him. The one you're speaking
Oh,
of
yeah.
earlier can be, you're a freshman kid. That's quite a bit.
No doubt about it. And
your head there. Let
and
me
we
ask you
rep
this,
it.
Coach, because I've seen you've talked about a lot of this with zone. Can you run it with counter? Do you think that's there? Because I
Yeah.
definitely would. I'm probably in more a gap scheme type of guy.
Yeah.
Fair amount of outside zone, but
Yeah, we run outside zone too, but it's a little harder in pistol to run RPOs off it, because your back's turned.
yeah, obviously.
But we do run some hip stuff, and we throw the ball out of hip. But we'll run some hip stuff with our outside zone. But yeah, you can run. At Paradise Valley, when I had Ryan Finley, we did run a GT out of 2x2, and just read the end man line of scrimmage. And if he obviously if he went with the tackle, quarterback was pulling it, and we were blocking for the quarterback. Jab blocking the nickel. But there's definitely ways to do it. I kind of, I've gotten away from GT and really been an inside zone, outside zone guy, and we've been very successful with that. But this year we've actually a little bit we dabbled with it last year, but we're adding power and we're running GY power, So with the tight ends we have, they're kind of more like fullback types this year. I don't have the big long guy like we normally have. So they're more fullback types. So we're going to run a little bit of power, and I think with the play action we can have off of that with shots, because I'm a play action shot guy. Like we'll be running. It's a play action, but we'll have dagger on the front side. If you're familiar with dagger, it's like a run through by your slot and a 15-yard dig, right? Well, I have a post on the back side, so the quarterback's opening front side on the dagger side with the back end of the flat, because he's your flat controller, and his eyes are on the backside safety. So on that first step, he's sliding right, and if that safety's humming down on the run, or if he's sitting flat-footed, we're throwing post. Like we're throwing home run post. And it takes a lot of reps to that. But the play action off the run game, you got to, obviously you got to establish a run, which you guys have been awesome for like 25 years running the ball up there, Prescott. But, if you can, the way you run the football, play action is so important and such a big play opportunity if you have a receiver that can beat one-on-one.
Is that your big play action, Coach? Our biggest one the last few years has been what I've seen a lot of people call Yankee, where you get the deep cross route,
Yep.
You get the home run post.
Yeah, we do that out of our condensed set, our condensed 2x2. I got it from Alabama actually when I was at ASU, because we were able to watch all their tapes, and I took a lot of stuff from the Rams and the Chiefs back then. And we do a condensed set where the field side wide receiver is running a go route, not a post, because he's condensed. And then we have the over route at 20 yards with 2 chip tight end H-backs or chipping and then going to the flat. So you get that corner, because most of the time you're going to see too high in that condensed set. So, being able to read the front side safety, if that safety runs with the go route, which you should, Then you're going to go back to the front side, read the corner. If the corner goes to the flat, then you're hitting that over 20 yards. It's hard to cover for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's brutal.
Absolutely.
And we run that. I'll do that once a game. I'll hit that route once a game off of our play action, off our condensed set. But I do love the dagger. Dagger's a 2-high beater, man, because we're a 4 vertical team a lot. That's probably my favorite drop back concept. That and mesh. But we're a 4 vertical. So when you throw that dagger in there, that really complements the 4 verticals really well versus 2-high.
Love it, Coach. Love it. Well, I have got to run my youngest daughter to gymnastics, or I would be here talking ball all day. So sorry that we couldn't share film, but I will be calling the end of the season because we're definitely going to have you on again.
Come on.
Love to talk some ball with you, Coach. But thanks again for joining us. I hope everybody's season's going well, and we'll see you next time.
All right, take care, Coach. Wish you all the best. God bless, and hey, go Arizona football. And I'm not talking about Wildcats. See you, buddy.
See you later.
Bye.